If former President Trump is convicted in a court of law, would you still support him as your party's choice? Please raise your hand if you would.
In an increasingly divided country, the Republicans stood united behind Donald Trump in the 2024 election. Largely rural red states are firmly in Republican hands, whereas most U.S. coastal states and big cities are Democrat strongholds. The two parties seem so far apart that some on the far right are bringing up ideas of secession. Like Daniel Miller, president of the Texas Nationalist Movement.
The bombshell came last summer when Survey USA released the results of a poll that they had done in Texas. What it showed was that 60% of Texas voters, 66% of likely voters would vote for Texas independence if they were given an opportunity. There was always this sentiment, and I think it's latent among Texans, that there is a major disconnect between the people of Texas and the federal system. You know, Washington, D.C., in their minds is a government that is far away, but has far too much intrusion into their lives.
I think I overdressed. Where's the camo? That relegated us from being a state to being merely an administrative province of an out-of-control system in D.C. Yeah. We are the real Texans. We are the people. Yeah! This rally is not an end. This rally is just the beginning. Yeah. For some of us, it is the middle of the journey. But from this day forward, let the people, the would-be tyrants in the parliament, let them be on notice that we will not stop, we will not back down until we see Texas free and independent.
Calls for a Texit are growing. In 2022, the Republican Party of Texas demanded a referendum on independence in their election manifesto for the very first time.
Texas retains the right to secede from the United States, and the Texas legislature should be called upon to pass a referendum consistent thereto.
Other U.S. states like Illinois and Oregon are increasingly toying with secessionist ideas as well. Even at the national level, some are advocating for a split. Like David Reboy. He's a strategist at the Claremont Institute, a far-right think tank which fosters the intellectual base for Trumpism.
The New York Times says the Claremont Institute is, the most influential think tank on the right. A few years ago, I wrote a piece called "National Divorce is Expensive, but it's Worth Every Penny." I believe national divorce, or to be more explicit, the breakup of the United States, is inevitable. It's just a matter of the timeline. It's not going to be tomorrow, it's not going to be next year, but at some point, all human things fade away.
More than anything else, it is a reminder for Red America to think about economic and cultural autonomy for itself and what it would take to get there.
America's unbelievably polarized. I mean, I don't think there is very much that unites the left and right in America in terms of first principles. I do think that we're in the middle of a cold civil war. We are in an ideological conflict. It's an open question on what vision of the world will ultimately prevail. The left's understanding of the world or the right's understanding of the world. Marjorie Taylor Greene and some other politicians, too, decided to pick it up.
And in 2022, I'm going to blow away the Democrat socialist agenda.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of the most high-profile Republican hardliners in the House of Representatives.
We need a national divorce. We need to separate by red states and blue states and shrink the federal government.
Last thing I ever want to see in America is a civil war. No one wants that. At least everyone I know would never want that. But it's going that direction, and we have to do something about it.
If Democrat voters choose to flee these blue states, well, once they move to a red state, guess what? Maybe you don't get to vote for 5 years. You can live there, you can work there, but you don't get to bring your values.
Currently, I don't think the threat of secession is too serious, but I think what it speaks to is this idea that right-wing infotainment, media, right-wing politicians have found that this is an issue that can stoke resentment within the base, and it's something that voters are responding to. So I think that's problematic.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and Matt Gaetz emerged as the faces of the MAGA movement in the House of Representatives. These ardent Trump supporters became figureheads of the new Republican right. They blocked votes on the federal budget and raising the debt ceiling. They also threatened to block aid to Ukraine.
I'm here as a member of the House Armed Services Committee to say that the days of endless cash and military materiel to Ukraine are numbered.
When the dominant party in the House of Representatives is hostage to a faction that wants to block everything and therefore nothing can get done, it's going to affect the American economy. It's going to affect American power in the world, prestige and power in the world. It could, in a matter of days, affect our ability to supply Ukraine, which is not a small thing.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
What is the aim of these radicals? I think their behavior, it's not too much of an exaggeration to say that that the radical wing of the Republican Party, that the MAGA wing of the Republican Party has become nihilist. They want to bring the system down.
Disruption is the goal. You know, chaos is the goal. They want to, it's a wrecking crew, as one of my colleagues wrote. It doesn't have a goal like, if only I could reduce the deficit by so many billions of dollars, or if I could get this policy in place. It's not policy driven. The policies are almost a secondary element to it. It is just about the notion of blowing up the system, on the theory that the system has been broken for so long, on the theory that breaking it up in and of itself is the goal.
In just 40 years, the U.S. radical right has gone from the fringes to the center of political life. They've seized control of the levers of power and now flex their might in politics, the judiciary, and the media. Donald Trump has accelerated this process. With his help, they've wrested control of the Supreme Court and tipped the scales in their favor in Congress. On November 5th, 2024, Trump was elected president for a second time. The Republicans also retained control of the House and took back the Senate. A big win that gave a huge boost to the ultra-right, making them more powerful than ever before.